I'm sitting here in this bar trying to make sense of everything. How my life got so far off track in just one evening. A couple of hours ago, I found out that my wife of 10 years has been unfaithful. Tonight, it was with her boss, Liam Mercer. But what really gets me is that it could have been any one of 5 other men. 5, maybe 6. All this time, I thought we had a good marriage. Sure, we hadn't had any children yet, but we'd agreed to hold off because of our jobs. Kathy travels a few days each month, and my work takes me out of town every other week or so. It seemed like a practical choice. Focus on our careers, enjoy our time together. Now, it all feels like a lie. If she's been seeing all these men, what does that say about me? Am I really such a failure as a husband that she had to bring them into our home, into the life we built together? I can't stop replaying what happened at work earlier. I got called in around 4:30 because one of our main production lines was down. The chip cutter was misaligning disks, ruining an entire batch of memory chips. I work in tech, have a bachelor's in computer science, and a master's in electrical engineering. So I was the one they called to figure out if the problem was electrical or a programming error. I called Kathy as soon as I knew I'd be late, around 5 o'clock. Maybe she seemed disappointed, saying she hated eating alone. I'd promised her I'd make it up to her this weekend with dinner and dancing. She sounded happy, like she was looking forward to it. I had no idea that while I was working to fix a production issue, she was at home preparing to meet Liam Mercer. It still doesn't feel real. We found the problem at around 6:15 p.m., so by the time we got everything back up and running, it was almost 7. I headed home, hoping for a warmed-over supper and maybe a loving wife that I could share a moment with. That is not what I found. And that is why I am here, trying to figure out where it all went wrong. How could my beautiful 32-year-old wife cheat on me? I came home and parked in the driveway, but entered the garage and walked into the laundry room, closing the door fairly silently. I didn't want to overly disturb Kathy if she was watching TV. As I came into the kitchen, I could see the back of my wife, and she was in a robe. However, what was weird was that she was talking to someone. To make matters worse, that someone had a male voice. I slowly, and as quietly as I could, I closed the laundry room door and walked toward the dining room. What I saw shocked me to my core. I saw Liam Mercer, her boss, sitting next to Kathy. He appeared to be unclothed, sitting at my dining room table drinking my best whiskey. I could see the bottle on the table between them. I was shocked and frozen in place. Then I could hear them talking. "Kathy, why am I here tonight? Besides the obvious, I really appreciate the excellent meal and the after-dinner entertainment. But I mean, why tonight? And why in your home? My husband is working late again. Some machine at work is more important than I am. So he doesn't come home to me. I find someone to take his place. We had such a great time in Atlanta last month that I thought of you when he called me today. And as I asked you nicely, you came home with me. Besides, it could have been one of my other friendly coworkers, Graham, Ben, Harry, Bill, or even Ellis. So this happens often. Jen, no, not often, but when I travel, I don't go without company at night. When my husband calls and tells me he will be really late, I take advantage of the opportunity. When he travels and I'm home most of the time, I'm not alone. I always thought that you and Grant had a good marriage. What happened? Not that I'm complaining. Mind you, I guess it started that week 3 years ago when I was in Tampa with Graham Whitlock. We went down to the seminar they were giving on the new training techniques, and by Wednesday I was overwhelmed. I had dinner with Graham and a couple of others from the seminar, and one thing led to another. I ended up spending the night with Graham after a night filled with drinking, dancing, and then spending time together. I spent the rest of the week in Graham's bed. I came home, and at first, I was really sorry about what I did. Grant and I didn't seem to connect like we did before. I knew that I had to get things back to how they were, or I would lose him. So I determined to make it up to him, and spent time together every night for 2 weeks. But subsequently, I went to mobile with Ben. And the second night, their eye ended up in Tom's bed. I guess from then on, I became someone who sought companionship when I traveled. Last month, you and I went to Atlanta, and we ended up spending the night together. Now you know why you are here and not Grant. When Grant has to travel, I invite one of the 5 to stay the night, but I always make them park the next street over so no one sees a car that shouldn't be in my driveway. Speaking of Grant, we need to get dressed so when he comes home, I'm all alone. How about one more time for the road right here on the dining room table? Sure, I can handle that. Kathy removed her robe and lay on the table, and Liam started with my wife. Well, she used to be mine, but not anymore. I had to get out of there before I did something foolish and ended up in jail or worse. Liam was in his early 40s, 6'2", trim and fit. I'm 37, 5'10", and 230 pounds. Yes, I have a spare tire. No, I don't get enough exercise, and I guess that is why Kathy wanted more than I could give her. I had hidden a video camera in the garage that I was going to give to Kathy for her birthday in 2 weeks. So I went back out, got the camera, put the batteries in, and made sure it was working. It was one of the new 32 gig flash memory ones, so I had plenty of time to film the whole thing. I rushed back inside and started recording. I got back inside, and Liam was still with my wife. I filmed the whole thing with him with her on my dining room table, all the way up to when they went to the bedroom to get their clothes. I left and ended up here in this bar. It was the very first one I found coming out of our neighborhood. It was more of a sports bar than a dive, but I could sit at the bar, drink my beer, and hope to drown my sorrows. The bartender, a young lady with the name tag Jenna on her shirt, looked at my glass of beer. It was still half full from when she poured it a half hour ago. Not a good night, I can see. Mind if I ask why this sad face? I came home too early. Oh wow, that's a real stinger. Someone you know. Her boss, but I overheard that she is seeing 5 more. She is messing with. Oh man, that has got to hurt. Can I get you anything? A little stronger, you know, to try to take the edge off. I would ask, but you probably don't have what I want. Try me. I just might have it. I need 2 fingers of Tuller D in a tall glass with 3 ice cubes. Coming right up. That is my favorite medicine too. Somehow, it seems to hit the spot, to calm frayed nerves and soothe bad feelings. Jenna was back with a tall glass and 3 ice cubes with some amber liquid in the glass. I took 1 sip, and I knew she was right. This was the exact medicine. After the 3rd sip, I could feel the tension and stress drain away from me. This was the proper medicine. All right, Jenna. She was back again and said, sure, changed your mood. I can actually see a face instead of the dark cloud that was there before. There is still a frown, but at least it looks like there might be hope for you yet. Thanks, Jenna. I have, or at least I had, a bottle of this at home, but someone was drinking a glass of it when I first went in. I may never drink from that bottle again. It became tainted tonight, tainted by the betrayal of a woman I thought loved me for 10 years. I also found out that for the last 3 years, she has been seeing others. They say that love never really goes away, but I do know that hate can appear in a heartbeat. Do I still love her? Yeah, probably. But right now, hatred is overwhelming everything else. I'm not even sure I can go back into that house and stand to be in the same room with her anymore. Can I really pull off the acting job I have to do in order to keep her in the dark as to what I know, or do I just take the evidence I have right now and see if it is enough to go forward with the divorce? Hold that thought. I'll be right back. I sat there in that bar and took stock of what I was and what I've become. I'm 37 years old and the Assistant Director of Operations for Taylor Systems. We build and maintain equipment for the semiconductor industry. We also have a small in-house operation where we can grow the disks and get them cut down to the individual chip for smaller companies, not able to manufacture the memory chips themselves. This is usually the most expensive part of this process. Since we build the equipment, we have to test it out. So who better to do small jobs than us? Over the years, I've let my body go due to overwork and lack of exercise, whereas Kathy has kept her body trim and the beautiful looks that endeared her to me back in college. I was in my final year for my master's, and she was in her senior year for her bachelor's degree. We met and fell in love in 8 months, and 6 months after graduation for both of us, we got married. I thought it was a happy one, but apparently not. I took a couple more sips of my medicine when a man and a woman sat down on either side of me, and Jenna came back over to me. I never got your name, but these are 2 friends of mine who happen to be lawyers. And damn good ones too. This is Marge Simpson and Ned Flanders, and you are Grant Deacon. I'm pleased to meet both of you. Grant, may I ask what evidence do you have? I asked Ned. I opened my briefcase at the bar, produced my brand new Sony Handycam, and handed it over to Ned. I showed him how to turn it on, and he watched my wife have a conversation with Liam. Marge stood next to Ned, and they watched the whole thing. They gave me back the camera, and Marge said, "That is enough to prove her with adultery, and you can get her boss on supervisor-employee morals charges if their company has that in their policy and procedures manual. Most every company of any size has to have that. You can also get alienation of affections on the boss and the company for not enforcing their policies and procedures manual." Well, her company is Evans Marketing and Research. They have offices in Tampa, Atlanta, Mobile, Rouge, and here in Austin. She also has 5 other lovers that are her co-workers: Graham Whitlock, Ben Trenton, Walter Harlow, Nathan Ashford, and Marcus Ellis. When they travel to one of the other offices, she is comforted by one of the 5 or Liam. Now, since her Atlanta trip last month, this has been going on for 3 years. So what do I do now? Marge said, "Give me $1. Okay, sure. What is that for?" I asked as I pushed over a $1 bill for my change on the bar. "You just hired us as your divorce attorneys," said Ned. "We are the best in the area, and she will regret the day she stepped out on you. As for what's next, go home and try not to upset the apple cart tonight. It will take a couple of days to get the paperwork done, and after that, we can have her served, and then all bets are off. Furthermore, leave the camcorder with me. Let me go to the car and get our card in a receipt book so I can give you a receipt for the camera. I'll bring you a sheet of things we will need information on. And then tomorrow, you can come in and pay our fee, but we can start working for you right now for this $1. Now, if she doesn't fight the divorce, our standard fee is $33,000. If she fights, it goes to hourly rates after the initial fee is used. Are you okay with that?" "Yeah, that works for me." Ned left and came back with his briefcase. I filled out some forms, and then he gave me a worksheet that I needed to fill out with our finances, income, assets, and such. I would need a copy of any prenuptial agreement we had signed. No such luck there. 20 minutes later, we were done, and I was free to go home. It was almost 9:30 now, so I guess I could go and not see Liam, but I would definitely be tired tonight. Ned mentioned that I could say I pulled a groin muscle at work tonight, so I could refrain from intimacy with my soon-to-be ex-wife until she could be served. I gave Jenna a $10 tip and said I would see Ned the next day, depending on how soon I could get all the information together. I drove home, still pissed at my wife, but I now had a plan. I came into the garage, put the Handycam box back where I had hidden it, and went into the house. Kathy was dressed in some slacks and a blouse that she lounged around in at home. She was reading a book with the TV on again, like normal. There were no glasses in the drain board, so I assumed that she had put them in the dishwasher or cleaned them and put them back in the cupboard. My whiskey bottle was on the sideboard, but not exactly where I usually leave it. Close, but not quite right. There was also less than the last time I had a drink from it. The dining room table was now covered with papers from her work. I walked into the dining room and put my briefcase on the chair that Liam had previously sat in and shuddered a bit. "Hi, honey. I'm home. I'm really sorry it's so late, but it couldn't be helped. I see you had to bring work home too. I walked into the living room and kissed my wife on her cheek as I said, I'm tired and had a very hard day. I'm going to take a shower and hit the sack. Love you, dear. I hung up my suit, threw my shirt, socks, and underwear in the hamper and took a shower. As I dried off, Kathy came into the bathroom. What's the matter, Grant? I think I pulled something when I was working late today. I felt a pull in my upper thigh, but it went right away, and I haven't noticed anything until just now. I'll have to get it checked out tomorrow, or the next day, if it doesn't go away by morning. I'm sorry, but I think cuddling is all I'll be up for tonight. Oh, Grant, I was kind of looking forward to some time together tonight. I would really love to, but I'm beat right now. Maybe tomorrow night. Okay, I was damn sure I wasn't going to have sloppy moments anymore. I guess I can wait one more night. However, remember, I love you, Grant. I stumbled to the bedroom after that bold-faced lie. How could she forever love me and cheat around on me like she has for the past 3 years? That is like an oxymoron. She loves only me, and yet she has been seeing 6 different men besides me. God, how can she even say that with a straight face? How can she lie like that and still think that I will accept it as truth? Now that I know, I guess I'm the fool around here. Of course, she doesn't know that I know. She thinks I'm some stupid person who has no clue what's going on. Well, up until tonight, I didn't have a clue. I was the clueless person whom she thought I was. I was ignorant that my so-called loving wife was seeing 6 men and had been for 3 years. Well, tonight I woke up, and things are going to change around here, just not quite yet. I was thinking about all the stuff on that checklist Ned gave me, and how it was going to be hard to act naturally around Kathy now. I drifted off into a troubled sleep after a while. The next morning, I could feel the shame and betrayal. It was like a black cloud hanging over my head, like I remember from the old cartoons. My legs felt weak, and I could hardly move at all. My whole body ached. Jen said that I tossed and turned all night. She again asked what was wrong. I almost told her the real reason, but I said my thigh and lower stomach hurt all night long. I couldn't get into a comfortable spot in the bed and stay there. No position I laid gave me relief until this gets better. Maybe I need to sleep in the spare room so I don't disturb you. You need your sleep as much as I do. Maybe the doctor will give me something to ease the pain. As if there was a pill to relieve the pain in my heart. God, how could she rip my heart out like this? I tried to give her everything she ever wanted. Maybe that is it. I gave her everything, and she valued nothing she had but to ask. I tried to provide. I guess that is where I went wrong. I treated her like a princess, and she was a street 304 all along. I knew that she wasn't a virgin when we first got together, but neither was I. My mother always told me that I had to treat all women and girls as though they were ladies of impeccable taste and bearing until they proved me wrong. Well, this is one woman who has definitely proven that she isn't a lady. While at work today, I filled out that worksheet Ned gave me. I also checked around with some people I know and found out that Simpson and Flanders are ruthless against cheaters. Both had been cheated on by their spouses, and they were hell on wheels against any cheater, male or female. I relaxed a little, knowing that I was in good hands with them. I called and made an appointment with Marge and let her know I had the paperwork that Ned had given me last night, and it was all filled out. I did our finances, so I knew what we had and what Kathy made. She made about 40% of what I did, but her degree was only a bachelor's in education. I felt better after I did that. Marge asked if I could fax or email the worksheet to her, and she would get started on the paperwork for the court. She also asked if Kathy was traveling anytime soon. I said she hadn't mentioned anything as yet, but it had been almost a month since her last trip. I scanned the worksheet into my computer and then sent it to Marge. I met with Kent Brockman this afternoon, and he told me that I really needed to start working out. He was one of the people I talked to about Simpson and Flanders. He had been divorced about 3 years ago, and had found a very nice divorce he was serious about, but they were both taking it slow. He said that women today looked for fit men in their late 30s and early 40s. He found that being fit made a huge difference in being able to connect with today's single or divorced women. He even recommended a gym near me that could give me some individual training to get rid of my spare tire and give me the stamina like I had in my early 20s. He also said to pick up some generic aspirin and put them in an old prescription bottle, or he could create a very good fake label on the computer, and all I had to do was peel and stick it on the aspirin bottle. We decided to do that, and I soon had a label for cyclobenzaprine tablets, a muscle-relaxing medicine. Since Kathy might know what the pills looked like, I would keep the bottle in my briefcase, which she knew I always kept locked. I told her it was due to classified documents that pertained to some of the processes for the company. Once I told her that, she accepted it. That was a long time ago, and I never told her any different. I stopped by Walgreens on my way home and picked up some generic aspirin. I pulled the label off, put my new label on the bottle, and I was home free for a few days. I should be able to milk the pulled groin injury for a couple of weeks, and by then she should have been served. I got home around normal time, and Kathy was just starting dinner. Grant, I hate to tell you, but I have to go to Mobile and then Atlanta next week. I just got told today I'll be flying out Sunday night and probably won't be back until late Friday evening. There are several of us going this time, so it won't be quite as bad as those solo trips I've been taking here lately. However, that will give you a chance to heal up, and when I get back, we can make up for lost time and opportunities. Right? Yeah, babe. We can have your entire birthday weekend to make up for lost opportunities. I'll look forward to it. I saw the doctor today, and he gave me some muscle relaxer pills. He said I should be good as new in a week or so. I gave her a quick kiss on the cheek as I went by the stove where she was cooking something for dinner. I changed into some sweatpants and a t-shirt, sat back in my recliner, and vegged out on something on the tube. About a half hour later, Jan called me to the table, and we ate and talked about our day. She said that the trip next week would have them teaching some new techniques for HR counseling. I said things were going well after the glitch I found last night, and we generally talked about anything and everything, almost like normal. Of course, I was seething just under the surface, trying to come up with what I had done 3 years ago that allowed Kathy to think that cheating on me was acceptable behavior. I came up empty. I could not think of anything I did or didn't do 3 years in the past or 4 years ago, or even last week, that would lead Jan to think I loved her any less, or that I didn't respect her or value her as a wife. So I guess this problem was all her and not me. She is the one who strayed, and because she got away with it once, she tried for a second time since I never caught on. I guess she felt she could continue, and I would be none the wiser. It pained me deeply that she had just thrown me to the wayside. It was like she was dumping week-old garbage into the can. I was like that to her somehow. She lost her respect for me and our marriage and turned against me. Unsure there was still some love for me, or we would not be having intimacy so often, but that closeness was now gone for me, circling the drain, just like our marriage. God, I'm so glad that we never had children. If we had, I might have stayed for their sake, but then, too, they may not have even been mine. Who knows? I made my excuses and made a point to take my pill in front of Kathy before going down the other hall to the spare room. I undressed and lay on my stomach. I laid there and cried until sleep overtook me. Sometime during the night, my mind was still at work and figured out that she had the possibility to be unfaithful to me an average of 64 days a year. Just for argument's sake, let's say that she has had a lover each of those 64 days a year for 3 years. I'm looking at being cucked 192 times. How did I come to that conclusion? Well, let's start with her trips. A 3-day average for 12 months is 36 days. My travel average is 4 days every other month, so that is 16 more days. She said when I would work really late, she has someone over, so that adds maybe once a month, which is 12 more times. So you add 36 days plus 16 days plus 12 nights. That is 64 times a year times the 3 years it has been going on comes to 192 times at a minimum. I keep her satisfied 301 days a year, and yet that is not enough. Most married couples would kill to have that many days a year to be satisfied with their mate, but mine. No, she has to cheat on me with her boss and 5 of her coworkers. Now, when she is gone, I could maybe see the temptation, but that's only about half the time. The other half, she is doing it in our home and our marriage. Bet that is just too much. She must really hate me. I must be the worst husband ever according to her. If she thinks that doing what she is doing is a good marriage, what kind of sick, twisted mind would come to that conclusion? I don't know, but this poor soul isn't going to be kicked around like that much longer. I contemplated what I was going to do. Now, as I drove into work this morning, after reviewing what my active mind came up with overnight, I had an idea of something. I will call her work today, and I will see if I can find out where she is going to be staying, and then see if Ned or Marge can get someone to bug the rooms that she or their group will be staying in. I will say that since her birthday is coming up, I want to surprise her with flowers, and maybe even turn up one day toward the end of her stay. And we can stay over the weekend, just the 2 of us. Oh, Grant, I never knew you could be so devious, came to me in my mind as I sat at my desk thinking, yes, that is exactly what I would do. Around 9, I called Evans and talked to the receptionist, Mary Fields. I said, "This is Grant Deacon, Kathy's husband. I need to find out where she is staying during her trip next week. Her birthday is on Saturday, and I want to surprise her. I want to send her some flowers when she is in Mobile, and I want to surprise her in Atlanta and book us a room to spend the weekend there, just the 2 of us. But I need to know when and where she will be staying. Can you help me?" "Oh, Mr. Deacon, what a nice gesture and how sweet of you to think of such a romantic thing. Most husbands wouldn't even remember a wife's birthday, let alone plan something like this. Let me transfer you to Evelyn. She makes all the travel plans for our company." "Oh, how I envy Kathy, Mr. Deacon. Remember that she must never hear about this, or it won't be a surprise." "Okay, she won't hear about it from me. I'll transfer you to Evelyn." She giggled. "Travel Evelyn Whitmore, how may I help you?" "Evelyn, this is Grant Deacon, Kathy's husband. As you may know, Jan's birthday is next Saturday, and I want to surprise her by showing up in Atlanta on Friday for her birthday. However, since she will be gone most of the week, I wanted to send her flowers when she is in Mobile, and then get a room at the same hotel in Atlanta as a surprise. So I need to know her itinerary so I can make my plans with the week-long surprises I have in mind. Can you help me and keep this a secret?" "Oh, Grant, of course, your secret is safe with me. I just wish my husband was as sweet and considerate as you are. Half the time, he forgets my birthday or our anniversary. Let me give him some lessons in romance and date remembering. I really wish it was that easy. Most men forget such things, but I use my computer to keep track of special dates and events that I need to remember. Once I had all the right dates down, I scheduled them out for years to come. Now, I never miss an important event or date. Now, that is a smart way to do it. Maybe I'll mention it to my husband." "Okay, here is her itinerary for next week. She leaves the airport at 6:54 p.m. on Sunday and arrives at 9:49 p.m. in Mobile. They are scheduled to stay at the Holiday Inn downtown on Government. She leaves Mobile at 6:30 p.m. on Tuesday for the Hilton Atlanta, which is on Courland. They should arrive about 8:47 p.m. She is scheduled to return at 2:15 p.m. on Friday from Atlanta, so you need to get there a couple of hours before that. I wish you both a wonderful weekend." "Thank you so much, Evelyn, and remember, it's a secret." "Okay, that is taken care of." Next is to inform Ned and Marge. I called Marge and told her everything I knew about Kathy's trip starting Sunday and asked if they could get some surveillance set up for Mobile and Atlanta. She said she would and would charge it to my account. She did remind me that it would probably be another $3,000 to $5,000 at each location. Marge, if it helps me get rid of the cheating 304, I would pay double that now. Don't go getting any ideas. Okay, no, Grant. I was just mentioning that for that type of surveillance, it is costly. No problem. We'll keep the cost down as much as we can for the next 3 days. Nothing much happened. We did get the paperwork ready to go to court. I slept in the spare room, and Kathy was loving to me as much as she could be, but she was still a little edgy, like she knew something was wrong, but couldn't figure out what. I just hope that she didn't decide to change her cheating ways right now. She may even have a wild last fling plan to end her wayward times and try to be a loving wife, like she should if she suspected something. On Saturday, I took her out to dinner and afterwards, dancing. Although I did beg off dancing too much and let her dance with other men, I let her enjoy herself. Then I took her home, ate, and at home, I fell asleep. I hoped that was enough to let her think I was clueless. Only time would tell. On Sunday, I drove Kathy to the airport and dropped her off like normal. Then I drove home. I stopped in at the sports bar and saw Jenna again. When she saw me, she poured me 2 fingers of my medicine and had the 3 cubes in the glass sitting in front of me before I had even settled on the stool. You still seem a little down, Grant. Drink this, and you should feel better. Remember, it's not booze. It's medicine. Yeah, things are now in motion, and sometime this coming week, I will find out more about my wayward wife. I'm not sure how I can truly thank you for all your help, Jenna. Hey, no biggie, Grant. I have been there, done that, and got the ripped-up t-shirt to prove it. I met Marge when I went for my divorce 2 years ago. I found out by accident that my philandering husband of 8 years was seeing his secretary and had been for over a year. I was at their Christmas party and saw the 2 of them being all lovey-dovey in the corner, and I attacked the woman right there at the party. I contacted a friend who told me to call Marge, and the rest, as they say, is history. But why are you here, pushing drinks? I would have thought a beautiful girl like you would have men falling all over themselves to date you. You could have any man in this place, or any other place you could name. I mean, I don't want to sound nosy or anything, but what happened, you dear sweet man, Grant Deacon? Your wife has no idea what she is throwing away, does she? If she did, she would have been down on her knees begging for your forgiveness 3 years ago. Instead, she's getting ready for something she never expected. One very angry husband. My ex was a social climber. Me, I was just a pretty girl he could hang off his arm to make him look good. I had finished my junior year in college, working toward a business management degree when we met. We were married before school started in the fall, and I was a kept wife for the next 8 years. Roger climbed up the professional and social ladder, charming women and snowing the men in BS. I found out later that he had cheated on me before the wedding and never stopped. 2 years ago, when I divorced him, I was left with nothing much. I did get half of his assets, which amounted to about $100,000. And that was it. I had to find me a job, and I wanted to finish my degree so I could get a better job later. I had done a little bartending in college to make ends meet, so I looked for another one and found this job. Now, I work 4 nights a week and go to school during the day. I can only afford 2 courses a semester, but I'm getting there. I have a nice apartment not far from here, and I've got a 10-year-old car that is still getting me back and forth to school and here at work. So all in all, I'm not in too bad a shape. I have enough money to keep a roof over my head and food on the table and pay for my education. The owner here has 7 sports bars in the Austin area, and he has said that once I get my degree, I may get a run at this one for him, as he wants to open another one in Temple and wants the manager here to operate that new one. So, I guess I'm doing okay, Jenna. I would say you are doing quite well for what you have been through. I commend you for your work ethic and your drive to improve yourself. You certainly don't look your age. I figured you to be about 24 or 25, not the 30 to 31 your story says you are. Actually, Grant, I am 35. I had to work to get enough money to go to school. My parents died when I was quite young, and I was raised by my grandparents. They both died 3 years ago in a plane crash. I got a little money from them in a trust that my ex can't touch, but it's not much. They didn't have a lot of insurance, and what they did have paid their debts and the funeral. And that's about all the trust was for, my education. But they didn't have much to put into it, so there is not a lot available. This conversation took place over about an hour because of business, and I had finished my medicine. So I begged off for another dose and said I would be seeing her again. Good night, my friend. I hope to be seeing you again soon, I said, and leaving another tin on the bar for her. Good night, Grant. Remember that things will get better eventually. They have for me. I met a man who is becoming my friend. You might find some new friends too, she said as she went down the bar to wait on someone else. Wow, I think she just might be talking about me becoming a friend right now. I needed friends, the more, the better, to help me cope with what was on the horizon. The next morning, I called FDD Florist and ordered a dozen red roses to be sent to my cheating spouse in Mobile, Alabama. The card was to read, "To my loving wife for her upcoming birthday. Love always, Grant." I wanted her to think that I was still her adoring, clueless husband, so she would carry on with her affairs that way, and I could get verifiable evidence of her cheating. I got a call Monday evening from January. "Oh, Grant, honey, you really shouldn't have, but they are very lovely. Nothing's too good for my sweetheart. I hope to have a surprise for you on Friday, and then we will have the whole weekend to ourselves." The rest of our short visit on the phone was just chit-chat, nothing earth-shattering. Jan said, "I love you, Grant. See you soon. I can't wait for Friday night. Will you be well enough to handle me by then?" "Yeah, I think I'll be well enough to handle you. Friday evening. Love you. See you soon." I hung up the phone. I really hoped that hanging up like that didn't tip her off as to just how bad she had hurt me. I had to almost grit my teeth to say the last line. Yes, I still loved her, and Lord only knows that I would miss her like crazy, but there was no way on this green earth I could or would put up with her cheating behavior anymore. Now that I knew about it, Kathy was history. I just would have to learn to live with that loss and not go crazy because of it. I gave that all for everything she ever asked me for. She wanted a nice house in one of the outlying cities or towns around Austin. We looked, and she fell madly in love with a 4-bedroom single-story house in a very exclusive subdivision in Cedar Park, northwest of Austin. What couple with no kids needs a 4-bedroom home on just over 5 acres of land? We had been married for almost 5 years, and we had both just been promoted for the second time. And the money was good. We could afford the down payment and the mortgage without too much tightening of our belts. Also, the interest rate was still low, so it was a good deal. Kathy was on one of her 2 training sessions and couldn't sign the papers on the house, so it was all put in my name, and the loan was approved for just me. Yeah, I was making pretty good money by then, so we left it at that. She was the beneficiary of my insurance policies, so the place would be hers if something happened to me. Early last year, Jen just had to change to a new Lexus because her 4-year-old Honda was not classy enough. So I took an equity loan on the house, and it paid for the Lexus she wanted. I was now paying the $1,350 a month on the mortgage and another $425 a month on the equity loan. I had to chuckle as I realized that the house may be worth $350,000. But we owed Dan near that much between the 2 loans. So when we divorced, the house would be a wash. Neither of us had a big 401k as yet. Our savings amounted to a little over $4,000, and checking would cover the bills for the next 2 to 3 months. I was still driving a 10-year-old Dodge 1500 crew cab pickup that I have lovingly taken care of since I bought it 5 years ago. Sure, it was old, but it still looked nice with the shell on the bed, and the paint was still good. The engine still ran great. It had almost 150,000 miles on it, but it was still a great truck. What more did I need? Ken had given me some brochures on the gym he went to, and I was really thinking about joining. But I would probably need a new place to live. I wondered if there were any vacancies where Jenna lived. I would check with her tomorrow night. On the way home tonight, when I got home, I nuked a TV dinner and moved all of Kathy's things from the master bedroom to the spare room. Then I moved all her bathroom stuff over to the master bedroom. It really looked kind of empty, but I guess I had to get used to an empty life from this day forward. I knew, even deep down at the bottom of my heart, that Kathy and I were never going to get back together again. She ruined me with her cavalier attitude about the sanctity of our marriage and her complete disregard of me as her faithful spouse. It may take the whole rest of my life to get over her betrayal and the total lack of trust she had in our holy union. She was thumbing her nose at me, our time together, and the solemn vows we said to each other at the altar that day when we became one in the eyes of everyone present. Man, I have got to get out of this depression. I took 2 of Jan's over-the-counter sleeping pills and climbed into bed, letting Morpheus take me into his arms and protect me from any more harm. Tonight, Jenna wasn't at work Tuesday evening when I stopped in, so I just had a glass of beer and drove home. I didn't hear from Jan at all, and I took 2 more of those pills to be able to sleep undisturbed for another night. I was on pins and needles all day today, wondering what Kathy was up to. Marge had told me she would call Wednesday morning once she knew what happened in Mobile. I wanted to hear that everything was above board, but I had the sinking feeling that all was not well in the Deacon household. I dreaded going into work tomorrow, and that is why I took the coward's way out and drugged myself to sleep. Wednesday dawned way too early. I guess I medicated too early last night because I was wide awake at 5:30 in the morning. I lay in bed and mulled over in my mind what I would do if Kathy was good and mobile. Could I really take her back if she had quit hanging those awful things on me? Then my brain and its infinite wisdom said, remember, once a cheater, always a cheater. That was the real killer. That is what woke me up to reality. Who was to say that a week henceforth, a month from now, or even a year from now, that she wouldn't stray again with a whole bunch of new partners? Here, I would be none the wiser for some time until she got careless again, and she was caught. I could not survive another assault on my marriage or my heart like that. Given how I feel right now, I'm not going to say that I wouldn't just hurt her, her partners, and then myself. I think that I would load my dad's .45 and just shoot everyone associated with her cheating. I knew how to shoot and was damn good at it too. My dad taught me to shoot with that pistol. I even lovingly kept it oiled and cleaned. I take it to a range over in Pfluger at least once a month and run a couple of magazine loads through it to make sure I kept up my aim and agility with it. I'm not sure Kathy even remembers that I have it. I really need to stay focused, or I just might get it out of my lockbox in the garage and use it on her when she comes back on Friday. I drifted off to sleep thinking those thoughts in my head. About 10:30 this morning, I got a call from Marge. I only asked one question and then hung up. I asked, is she a good girl? I heard, no, she wasn't. I hung up and laid my head on my arms on my desk and imploded. The next thing I knew, my PA, Shelia Peterson, came in after lunch and asked if I was okay. Shelia, I'm not feeling well. I haven't slept well for the last couple of days, and I may be coming down with something. I'm going home and see if I can get over this. Have Jeremy handle anything that comes up. I'll call in and let you know when I'll be back. Of course, Mr. Deacon. I'll let Jeremy and Stuart, my boss, know what's happening now. Grant, are you sure you are in any shape to drive home? I can get someone to drive you home, or call a cab. No, Shelia. I need to make a stop along the way. I don't want to put anyone out. I'll be good as new in a little while. I'll rest a bit more and then leave. But I do thank you for your concern. I went to the restroom, cleaned my face up a bit, and tried to calm down. I knew I would have to sign the new papers for the divorce, but that could wait until tomorrow. I waited around another hour and then drove over to Marge's office and sat down. Grant, do you want any specifics about Mobile? No, Marge, just to know that she was with someone else is enough. If I were to see or hear anything that went on, I might just lose control when she comes home. Who was it? It was Graham Whitlock and Marcus Ellis, co-workers of your wife. Please don't mention my wife's name or status to me again. Thank you. She may currently hold that position, but not for long. I suspect that there will be quite the situation in Atlanta. Liam, Tom, Harry, and Nathan will want to get their share of the prize as well. Let me sign the papers, and we can have her served on Friday when she comes off the plane. I would also like to have her given a note. I had written this note before I left work. I handed it to Marge, and she asked, "Is it all right if I read it?" "Sure. Kathy, if you must come home because none of your partners will put you up for a while, then know that your place is now the spare room. I have taken the liberty to move all your things in there, in the adjoining bathroom. You have 2 weeks to vacate my house permanently. Someday I would like to know why you hated and disrespected me so much that you had to take some partners on the side. Right now, please do not talk to me for any reason. We will speak through our attorneys only. I would advise you to get a good lawyer, as mine are the best in the area. Please do not call me or hound me with pleas of your undying love, because it is all nonsense, and you know it. Grant, P.S. I think I will have to burn the dining table now. Grant, are you sure you want to say this to her? She will be very upset when she is served, and this note could unleash something you might not be able to control. Marge, she unleashed something that she has no control over too. When I first saw her and her boss, I was sorely tempted to go to the garage and get my gun and shoot both of them, and then myself. But a cooler head prevailed, and I captured on video their defilement of my dining room table and my marriage. So if she wants to unleash something in her, fine. She will find I do not scare easily, and I will be more than ready to fight back. Okay, but don't say I didn't warn you. Here are the new papers, and I can register it with the court, and she can be served on Friday evening when she gets back. Now, as for the other suits, when do you want the correspondence served? How about at the same time? Why send someone out 2 or 3 times? If they get wind of the divorce from Kathy, they may just crawl back into the rat hole they came out of. We can get the employer on Monday. Very well, Mr. Deacon. We will get everything set up. I would be prepared for a lot of grief come Friday evening. I doubt it. The locks are being changed tomorrow morning, and I will have the only keys. The mortgage is in my name only, so it is my house. There is almost no equity in it either between the first mortgage and the equity loan for her car. So how can she cause trouble there? The home was acquired during the marriage, right? Yes, that is correct. But she was at a seminar and couldn't be here for the closing, so we went with my income only. And I got the house. Kathy never even bothered to ask about signing the mortgage, so she is not on it anywhere. That is highly unusual. Most mortgage companies want both husband and wife on a mortgage so that they are covered if one of you dies. I have that insurance so that if I die, the mortgage is paid off. So I guess that they were covered, so no problem with Jan not signing. Okay, Grant. We'll get everything set up. Someone will be at the airport with a sign for Evans Marketing and Research, and then they can ask for names and serve them the paperwork. I have the perfect person to serve them. He is a Travis County deputy sheriff. He is 67 and kind of imposing. Plus, he just got back from duty and knows about 50 ways to handle a situation almost instantly. John would be perfect for this. He would probably love to do it since his wife was 6 months pregnant when he returned from a 14-month stretch over there. Thanks, Marge. Let me know what happens. I want to be prepared for when she tries to drag her home on Friday. No problem, Grant. I'll stay in touch. We had just plotted the end of my marriage, and in some ways, I was elated, and in others, I was deeply depressed. You can't go from being madly in love with someone for over 10 years to suddenly stop loving them and hate them instantly. Sure, but love is a more deeply set emotion. Most times, it builds slowly with time and becomes a part of your entire being. And in some cases, it becomes your whole life. That is what happened with me. Kathy became my life. What I lived for, what I got up in the morning for, why I wanted to work each workday. She is why I hated her traveling, because it meant that she was not home when I wanted her to be. I hated my traveling because it took me away from her. Then to find out that I was a forgotten entity, an afterthought to her life, it killed something inside of me that I thought was strong and could withstand any adversity. To find out what I did and the way it happened forced that love and devotion down into the deepest, darkest recesses of my psyche, and suddenly, without warning, hatred entered the picture and somehow erased the 10 years of love I had just moments before. This turned into a twisted and dark thing that threatened to tear me apart at the seams. That hatred was trying to unleash for me something that only occurs in late-night horror films or horrid nightmares of a twisted mind. However, that was what I thought of when I heard her name mentioned, or the word wife. Those words invoked in me something that even I never knew existed. Regardless of my physical attributes, I wanted to confront each and every one of those unfaithful individuals who defiled my marriage and my spouse and caused them to suffer the agony that I have suffered. I knew in my broken heart that I would feel better if I did some horrible things, but I also knew that I could never bring myself to do any of that. So yeah, I took the high road, sort of, and I would ruin their lives. I would ruin their marriages, and they would know not to mess with a married woman again, or at least not my woman. I know that this is just my mind playing tricks on me. I know that there is no way I could do those things. I'm just not that kind of guy. I would like to be maybe I would like to do some of those things, but the consequences would not be pretty. I would be in jail and probably end up being someone's entertainment. No, the consequences were not what I would want for me. I guess I will have to suffer alone the rest of my life and wonder why it had to be me that got the unfortunate end. I had taken the rest of the week off, got the locks changed, got some packing boxes from shipping and receiving, and left them in the garage. Late Friday afternoon, I did get a call on my cell phone. It was Liam. Grant, I'm truly sorry for all this. I know I deserve what you have done, but I want you to know I never thought it would hurt you. Kathy came on to me. I'm only a man. I was a long way from home, and I guess I thought it would never get out. However, that Tuesday evening at your house where things came to a head, I really never wanted that. But what man in his right mind would turn down having a relationship with your wife when it is freely offered? Again, Grant, for what it's worth, I'm really very sorry. Now I have to go home and try to explain to my wife about what happened. I hope that you don't mind if I try to put most of the blame on Kathy. I know I will be fired as a result of this, but I can't blame you at all. The line went dead. At first, I was extremely angry, but then when I really thought about it, I realized he acted with class and honesty. I sat in my recliner and awaited the storm that was yet to come. I heard a car roar into the driveway, then the doorbell started ringing, and then there was pounding on the door. I looked outside to see who was at the door and saw 3 very angry faces. I opened the door with the security chain on and asked what they wanted. I noticed Graham, Ellis, and Ben were very agitated. I heard nothing but threats and boasts of what would happen to me if I went through with the suits. What they didn't know was that I had dialed 911 before I answered the door and had my phone in my shirt pocket while the 911 operator was listening to all this. The next thing I knew, there was a real ruckus outside, and I peeked around the corner of the door and saw 9 officers, 3 Cedar Park police officers, 3 Travis County deputies, and 3 Williamson County deputies, trying to figure out jurisdiction. Cedar Park is in both counties, and our subdivision is in both counties, so any calls here will result in both counties responding. The house 2 doors down from mine is in Travis, and mine is in Williamson, so they both responded because of the closeness to the line. Anyway, they cuffed the 3 culprits that threatened me. And then a Williamson County deputy came to my door. Mr. Deacon, I presume. Yes, officer. Would you like to come in? Thank you, sir. I led him into the living room and asked if he would like some water or coffee. Cold water would be nice. Thank you. I got him a bottle of water and then sat opposite him in my recliner. Mr. Deacon, I'm Sergeant Mike Foley. The 911 operator has a copy of the call and the threats made to you by the 3 men outside. Can you tell me what this is all about? Yes, sir. You see, I found out that my spouse was intimate with 6 men. I caught her 2 weeks ago, and I captured her affair with her boss, Liam Mercer, from Evans Marketing and Research in Austin on a new camcorder that I was going to give my wife for her birthday tomorrow. I found out that night that Graham Whitlock, Marcus Ellis, Benjamin Trenton, Walter Harlow, and Nathan Ashford were also having an affair with my soon-to-be ex. I filed for divorce with Marge Simpson and Ned Flanders as my attorneys. All 7 people involved were served papers by a Travis County deputy sheriff this afternoon at ABI. The 6 men are in correspondence in my divorce. Liam was served with alienation of affections as he was her boss and should have known better. I have filed a suit against their employer for not adhering to their company's policies and procedures manual regarding this affair. So far, I have received a phone call from Mr. Mercer, and he has apologized and will not fight the suits against him. I have not heard anything from the woman, nor the other 2 correspondents. I expect to hear from them soon. We could hear some more things going on in the front yard, so we both went outside. A cab was there, and my spouse was hanging her head and standing by my car. The other 2 were arguing with the remaining officers when 2 more cars showed up. These were DPS officers from the Department of Public Safety, Texas State Police. Nathan and Harry were being cuffed and put into the back of the 2 DPS cars. 5 cars, 5 persons, seemed natural to me. Officer Foley walked over to Kathy and asked if she would kindly follow him. Kathy was very subdued. She even left her bags in the driveway. One of the other officers brought them inside for her. She sat on the couch, and I could see she was crying and had been for some time. Her hands were busy wringing her handkerchief and almost tearing it to pieces. Mrs. Deacon, is the accusation that you were having an affair with the 5 gentlemen outside true? Yes, sir. Were you present when the other gentlemen were served with papers concerning your impending divorce? Yes, sir. Mr. Deacon, we are going to charge the first 3 with threats to commit bodily harm to your person. We are going to arrest the last 2 for interfering in a police investigation. What do you want to do about Mrs. Deacon? I promise you, Officer Foley, I will not harm the woman, and she can stay here until she can make further arrangements to seek a new place to live. Mr. Deacon, and I thank you for the calm and considerate manner in which you were handling this matter. If there is a need to talk to someone about all this, please let me know. I know of some excellent people that may help either or both of you to cope with the fallout of this matter. Here's my card. Please call if you find you have a need for my assistance. He looked over to Kathy and said, Mrs. Deacon, if you need help, please call me or the Williamson County Sheriff's Office if need be. I'm sure that once the doors are closed, there may be some yelling and screaming. If you feel threatened, don't hesitate to call. From me to you, Mrs. Deacon, I think you owe this man a huge apology. He seems to be a decent sort of guy, and what you did is not right. There might be things I am not privy to, but that is just my opinion. Take it how you will. I will bid you both a good afternoon. I pray I am not called back out tonight. I'll see myself out. After the front door closed, the silence in the room was deafening. It was broken by soft sobs and sighs. After about half an hour, I got up and got Kathy a bottle of cold water and poured it into a glass with ice. If you would like something stronger, just say so. I went back to my recliner and sat back, saying nothing more. I felt it was her turn to speak. I had my say with my note and the divorce papers. Almost an hour later, I heard a mumble. Yes, you said something. I said, I'm sorry. I really am, Grant. I love you more than I can ever expect you to know. But I also know that I have hurt you deeply for you to do this the way you did. I'm sure that you hate the sight of me, and I will go as soon as I can get a place. I will try to stay out of your way until then. I know this is your house, and I should never be here anymore. For what it's worth, I can't for the life of me understand why it started or why I didn't come to you as soon as it happened and confess. We might have been able to work through it, but maybe not now. I know there is no chance. I did notice that the dining table is still there, but I suppose there is a new bed in your bedroom by now after I read your note. I wondered how you could keep living here and seeing me as such a disappointment to you. You knew, and yet you did nothing. You let me slide, and I disrespected you all over again on this last trip. Unsure that we were spied on while I was away. That is why you let it go on this long. It was so you could have solid evidence against us. I overheard Liam's call to you. He was always a class act. I hate to see him and surely hurt this way, but he deserves his time in hell too. But I'm the worst. I'll stay out of your way. Grant, and thank you for not harming me outright, although that might have been kinder than letting me live with the grief that I have caused you. I think I will try to talk to that officer and see who he recommends for me to talk to. I suppose that I won't have a job as of Monday. I'll try to contact my parents and see if I can stay with them for a while. I'm really sorry for all this mess, Grant. I never meant for you to get hurt. She then got up and took her bags and went to the spare room. By now, it was almost 6, and I called down the hall to January. I'm going out. I'm not sure when I'll be back. There's pizza in the fridge and lots of TV dinners. I stocked up while you were gone. I heard a faint okay. Since her door was closed, I went out and drove to my new second home, the Timberwolf Sports Bar, and took a seat at the fairly empty bar. I had my head in my hands when I heard the glass hit the bar. I looked, and there was a tall glass with 3 ice cubes and about 3 fingers of amber liquid. My eyes moved higher and saw a smiling face. Jenna. I figured the battle was over for now, so you needed a little more medicine. Things go as planned pretty much. There were a couple of small glitches that were handled by outside sources. That means the cops came right more or less, I said, and explained everything to my new confidant. The wait took the better part of 45 minutes as she started to get busy. This sports bar was set up with a long bar, probably 50 feet, but the best part was in front of the bar. To one side were about 6 tables that could seat 4 to 5 people. About 6 feet in front of the bar started the luxury stadium seating. These were nice, fabric-covered, and padded seats. The seat and the back moved so that you could get comfortable. There was a drink holder built into the seat and a small table that could be brought up from the side of the chair and locked in place for each seat. This allowed for snacks to sit right there with you and hold your beer mug as well. It kind of looked like a school desk, but much more comfortable. There were 6 tiers of these seats with 6 seats in a group, with a 4-foot separation for an aisle. There were 4 groups of 6 seats at each tier. Each tier was 2 steps down from the tier above, so it was like a movie theater. The place could see 186 people, with 18 at the bar and 24 at the tables. Along the front wall were 7 giant, probably 80-inch, flat-screen TVs showing up to 7 different channels depending on what was available on satellite, because there were so many sports venues available from all over the world. The place did fair business Tuesday through Thursday, but Friday to Sunday, the place was usually packed. The bar was an L-shaped affair, and I could sit at the second-to-last stool on the short side of the L. That side only had stools for 3 people because of the waitress station at the end. Jenna and a man named Sean were behind the bar tonight, and 4 waitresses in modest uniforms were waiting on the tables. There were probably 4.5 feet between tables, so that the waitresses could maneuver around to place drinks and snacks. By the time I had explained my tale to Jenna, I had finished taking my medicine. As Jenna came up, I asked if there were any vacancies in her apartment complex. Grant, I think there are a couple vacant. Do you want me to check it out? 2 can be really easy. My landlord is here tonight, and I'll get Lindsay to let him know a potential renter is here. I know he would love to talk to you. As I sat there, I wondered if this was a good idea, but by then, it was too late. A short, sturdy man came up to me and said, "I'm Steve Harvard. I hear you might be interested in an apartment. I have 2 studios, 3 one-bedroom, and a 2-bedroom unit available right now. Are you interested? I might be interested in a 1-bedroom. Can I stop by tomorrow and take a look at it? Sure, it's the Edgewood Townhomes on Barron Lane at Lone Stair Drive. You know where that is? Yes, my house is on Royal Lane near Wooton, but I'm thinking of selling it. It will be too big for me very soon. A divorce too. That's too bad. That's a nice neighborhood. Yeah, but I won't need a 4-bedroom house anymore. Maybe I should look at the 2-bedroom unit so I can have an office at home like I do now. Yeah, I'll look at that one tomorrow. Is that okay with you? Sure, I can hold it until noon for you. What's the name? Grant Deacon. I'll be there before noon. Here's my card. Thanks, Mr. Deacon. I got to get back to the game. See you tomorrow. Well, it looked like I would have a place to live after I sold my house. I certainly didn't need that huge house now. No children and no wife. I would need all that room. I think I have given Kathy enough time to get settled in so I can go home now. Home is where the heart is, right? Home is where love is, right? Well, I guess my home has become a house, a place where I exist outside of work. My new home is probably the Timberwolf. I feel more relaxed and more loved in that sterile place than I do in what used to be my home until 2 weeks ago. Just think, 2 weeks ago, I had a home where I could relax after a hard day's work, a place of solace and peace, a place I could weather out any storm. This was a place I thought was full of love and comfort with someone who loved me, and I loved in return. Then 2 weeks ago, it all came crashing down around me. I found out I wasn't loved in return the way in which I loved. It was not a haven from all my troubles. It became a place where trouble resided alongside betrayal, deceit, and lies. Man, I am getting way too emotional. I need something to blast me out of this funk. I am sinking into it. Where can I find solace now? Where is my haven? Where is my comfortable spot that I can feel safe and loved? Where can I relax and shut out the world and all the problems that bombard me every single day? I used to think it was at my home in the arms of my wife, but I find that the arms have grown cold and clammy. My home is no longer a place of safety or love. It is only a building like a million others we pass through in this life. There is no safety, no love, and no comfort there. It is just a building now. I arrived home, and there was a car in the driveway I did not recognize. I entered through the garage to see 3 people in the dining room sitting around the table. It was a man and 2 women. One is my wife, one is Liam, and one is Liam's wife, Cheryl. I closed the door fairly loudly and walked into the dining room. Oh, excuse me. I thought this was my house. I must be mistaken, I said angrily. No, Grant, we actually came over and wanted to speak to you. I wanted to say how sorry I am that this even happened, and if I could take back that night in Atlanta, I would. Cheryl had forgiven me enough that we will try to work things out. But I guess that is not an option for you too, is it? Said Liam during this conversation. My wife was sitting with her head in her hands. I think she was crying out as her shoulders shook with sobs. But no sound was heard. Liam, in a way, I think that you are a low-life person of the first order. But when someone like this woman here throws herself at you, I can understand your reaction. I can't say I would have done the same. In fact, I have had women similar to that woman pointing to my wife throw themselves at me when I have been away from home, but I invariably compared them to what I had at home, and they always came up short. I don't mean to demean you, Cheryl, but that was my take on it. Liam, you and I will never be friends, but I appreciate the way you have treated me and reacted in this matter. I suppose that you would like for me to dismiss the suit against you and the company for your affair. Grant, I'm not asking that you do that. If you did, I would be grateful, but I would not expect you to do that. You are very right. I should have known better. I should have let it go as a plea of a very lonely woman for some company. I didn't, and I am deeply ashamed that I did not take the high road that night that you came home early and caught us. Was my last night with Kathy. I didn't even participate in Atlanta. I walked into your home, and I could feel your presence. I felt like an outsider, an interloper in your home. I knew I was a thief, and I was stealing something that wasn't mine, and I should have never entered your sanctuary for that. I'm very profoundly sorry that night. I told Cheryl that I had done something wrong, and that I just hoped she would forgive me. It took those 3 days in Atlanta to prove to her that I was telling the truth. Cheryl surprised me by being in Atlanta on Wednesday. She had her own room and called me that evening, inviting me to her room only if I had not been with anyone else since my arrival on Tuesday. I promised her that I was, so I spent the next 2 nights in her room, and not my own. I think we rekindled our love for each other those 2 nights, and for that, I thank you, Grant. Thank you, Liam, for taking responsibility for your actions and for being so nice about this whole thing. I'm sure that you were aware of what transpired here today after your call. I didn't think they would be that aggressive. I thought that they would have acted more like you, but then you had already come to terms with the affair and ended it before this last trip. I may withdraw the suit against you and the company, but the other 5 are history. I plan on addressing their lives just like mine was destroyed. If there is nothing further, Liam, I would ask that you and your lovely wife please leave. I think there is some talking, Kathy, and I have to do. I had to take some time to calm down after the fiasco of this afternoon. I'm sure that you can show yourself out. Liam, we may see each other around, but I will be cordial. Liam and Cheryl left, and I sat where Cheryl had been next to Kathy and waited. After about 15 minutes, I asked, "Would you like something to drink? Water or a soda? Or how about some of that nice Cabernet you like?" "A glass of the wine would be nice. Thank you." I went into the kitchen and removed a bottle of Cabernet from our wine refrigerator. I removed the cork and poured her a glass and got a glass of ice water from the fridge. I brought the glasses into the dining room and sat again. I was waiting for her to have her say. After a few sips of her wine, Kathy decided it was time. "Grant, you have no idea how sad I am right now. I finally realized what I did to you and to our marriage. It started out as curiosity. I had always heard that some men were more interested, maybe a little more interested than others, but mine was smaller than you. Graham was my first and should have been my only, but there was an excitement, a high I never got with you. Now please, what I have had with you has been fantastic. You were the best partner I have ever had, but the first time was something else. It was like my very first time, like a story from back in high school, and my first time with you, but all rolled into one. It was pure passion. There was no love involved, just a relationship. Great relationship, but still just a relationship. It was wonderful at first, and then when I came home to you, I was ashamed. I felt guilty that I had strayed, and I was no longer yours alone. I let someone else into my life that should have never been there, at least not with the intimacy that they were. I swore to myself it would not happen again. I went on another trip with Graham, but we did nothing. He asked, and I said no. I said I was through with that type of thing. He said he was saddened, but he understood. The next trip was with Ben to Tampa again, and somehow I slipped again and invited Ben to my room. After that time, I was never alone when I traveled. If I traveled with one of them, I became a travel companion. I was bad. Subsequently, 2 years ago, I started inviting someone home when you traveled, and then later, when I thought you would be very late, we met either here or at some motel in Austin or around Rock, never around work or home. I certainly never expected to become so callous about my cheating. However, the one thing I was always sure of was my love for you and your love for me. I know now that my love for you wasn't enough to stop me from what I was doing. You always came first, though. If you wanted companionship, I was available, and I only had a partner before you one time. That was the night you caught us. I'm not sure why I wanted you to have companionship with me, but I thought that if you would and not say anything, I could continue and you would be none the wiser. I know that is not a faithful spouse thing to do, but by then, I was no longer your faithful spouse, was I? I shook my head, no. And then I said, I'm looking at an apartment tomorrow. If I like it, I will move there as soon as I can. You can stay here if you like. But remember, the house is still in my name only. I will sell it as soon as I can. There is not much in equity since we bought your car last year with the equity loan. I hope you understand why I have to get rid of it. There are too many bad memories now. All the times I was gone are currently black days and nights for me. I don't think I will ever understand your reasoning, but I just want this to be over with as quickly as we can do it. You need to find a lawyer so we can go to court and get this started. I don't want to drag this out with a lot of fights over everything. I just want to try to move on. I'm not sure that I can, but I have at least tried to do so. I guess I should have stuck with my first impulse when I saw you and Liam at this table. I wanted to get my gun and come in and shoot both of you and then myself. I think that might have been better off for all of us. Good night. I got up from the table and went into the third bedroom where I had been sleeping since this all started. I took 2 sleeping pills and locked the door. Saturday morning, I felt like hell. My mouth was cottony and my head hurt. I was all wrapped up in the sheets and couldn't move. I finally extracted myself from the sheets and stumbled to the bathroom, only to find it occupied. I stumbled to the master bath and took 2 aspirins and then stripped off to take a shower. Once dressed in casual slacks, a button-down shirt, and loafers, I went out for breakfast. I knew of an IHOP down the road, so I headed there. Once I had some food in me, I felt like I just might make it through the day. I drove over to the Edgewood townhomes and looked up Steve Harvard. He showed me both a 1-bedroom on the ground floor and a 2-bedroom at the back upstairs. He wanted first and last month's rent and waived the security deposit, and I had him run my debit card for the 2 months' rent. I could move in the next week, as that was the last week of the month. I said sure, and he gave me 2 keys. I went back to my house, and there was another car there that I did not know. Fine, I went in through the garage. However, I stopped along the way and grabbed my .45. I made sure the magazine was loaded, and I didn't use it yet. I walked into the dining room, and then to the living room, and saw Graham and Ellis. I immediately cocked the slide back and let it slam home. I got the immediate attention I expected as I was aiming at Graham first. Grant, there is no call for that. I came over to apologize for the entire ruckus yesterday. I know I was way out of line for what I said, but maybe you can understand my frame of mind. It was probably a lot like yours when you found out about us and your wife. We don't need any fireworks, so please put the gun down. Graham, you have apologized for yesterday. But since you were the first of many to use my woman, I expect an apology for that as well. I really can't take all the blame for that one. She came on to me. I just didn't turn her down like I should have. But after that first time, I thought that it was all right. Jen didn't seem to be too worried about it, so I didn't either. I thought that maybe you had an agreement that she could do what she wanted when she traveled, and you could when you traveled. But then I saw the inequality in the number of trips. But then, I didn't think anything about it anymore. I just took what was offered. I told Mac about what happened. So when he and Jan traveled, he asked, and she said yes. I'm really sorry about all this, Grant. I really am. I'll be leaving now. You coming, Ellis? In a minute. I need to apologize to Grant as well. I'm getting out of my house. I shouted and brought the gun to bear on Ellis. He wasted no time exiting, and it was virtually like the old cartoons. You could almost see the speed lines coming off him as he beat feet to leave. The front door was left wide open, and he was halfway down the street before Graham caught up to him and stopped the car. I turned, looking at my cowering wife, and said, "When are you leaving?" "I am taking Monday and Tuesday off, and I will try to find a place until I can figure out what I'm going to do." "I'm so sorry, Grant," she said, and then ran out of the room. I followed her and banged on the door with the gun in my hand. She slowly opened the door. I got a 2-bedroom apartment at Edgewood Townhomes. It's a second floor, unfurnished, but we can move some stuff today and tomorrow, and probably have you all moved in this weekend. I'll get the utilities turned on and in my name on Monday, but it has power and water right now. You will have to leave as soon as I can sell this house. It will be my home for the foreseeable future, so you need to start looking. I would prefer that you not be there too, but I'm sure you can find someplace closer to work for you if you still have a job. I'm still not sure if I want to withdraw the suit against Evans or not. I will decide on Monday. Now, do you want to move or do you want to find a place of your own this weekend, Grant? Please put that gun away. You scare me to death that I will say the wrong thing, and then you'll have a serious charge against you. Please put it away for your sake, not mine. I deserve to move on, but not you. Kathy, if I was going to harm you, I would have done it that Tuesday evening. I came home early and found you and Liam together discussing your actions. I only brought it in now to protect myself and you if necessary. I didn't know who was here or why. Now, are you going to move to the apartment I have or do you want to look for one of your own? Do you have a paper here, or should I get one? Freshen up, and I'll go get one and be right back. Don't answer the door anymore today. I don't want the rest of the group here when I return. Okay, yes, Grant. I went back to the garage and unloaded the gun and locked it away again. I drove down to the convenience store and got an Austin paper and one of those apartment hunter sheets. We could also look on Craigslist too. I came home and gave the paper and apartment hunter sheets to Kathy. I told her about Craigslist too, and she tried them first. I sat down in my recliner and just tried to shut down. I had had enough excitement for one day. I know I should have gone to check out the gym near me, but I just didn't feel up to it today. I was asleep when Kathy came into the living room, all excited. Grant, will you go with me to a couple of places I found? I would value your opinion as to whether or not all my stuff will fit in the apartments I want to look at. I can understand if you don't want to, but I wanted to ask you. You know I know nothing about what will fit where in an empty room. Sure, I'll come. Do you want me to drive? Yes, please. Okay, I drove her to 5 places, and of them, 3 would work, and I told her so. We drove back to the 3rd place we looked at, and she wrote them a check. It was a 1-bedroom, 2-story townhome with 1.5 baths, and not really far, about 6 miles from her work. She could move in tomorrow, so she called a mover who would move her stuff on Monday. I said I would stay home Monday to help too. Thank you, Grant. I really appreciate all the little things you were doing to make this easier. I know you could be a really hard man and tell me to just do it myself or suffer. I'm afraid that I never really deserved you as a husband. Somehow, I forgot how much of a gentleman you were, and I have lost all of that now. She sat in the passenger seat of her Lexus and cried all the way back up to Cedar Park and her one-time home. I called Marge on her cell and left the message that I wanted to hold off on the suit against Evans for right now, but I would let her know more later in the week when we got home. Kathy started packing her belongings. She asked if she could take the bedroom set we had in the spare room she was using. I told her to take the master bedroom furniture. I would never use it again. She said the same and only asked for the double bed in her room. I said that was fine with me. I was going to take the 3rd bedroom furniture and maybe my bedside table and dresser. She could have her dressers in the master bedroom. I didn't lift a finger to help her except move some of the big stuff to a location that would help when the movers came on Monday. That night, when I fixed some supper, Kathy and I ate in the living room. The dining room table was not a place I would ever eat on again. I might be able to sit at it and drink some wine, but never eat there again. Things progressed, and we had our court date about 2.5 months later. After the 60-day cooling-off period required by Texas law, we went before a judge, and he looked over what our lawyers had decided. It was a 65-35 split, and the house sold within 30 days of me listing it. I sold off the furniture we didn't want on Craigslist, and we moved into our own apartments, All the money gained went into the pot for division of property and assets. Kathy sold her Lexus for a significant loss and paid down on the equity loan. However, when the house sold, we made a slight profit of $11,000 after all the realtor fees and taxes and paying off both loans. Then, 31 days after our court appearance, the divorce was final. It was all anticlimactic. I was no longer responsible for her, and vice versa. I did see more of Jenna and even asked her for a date. 6 months later, she readily accepted. As for the alienation suits, I garnered very little money from them. Each suit was for $1 million, and I could only collect a mere $115,000 total. The men just didn't have that much in assets. I settled out of court with Evans for $200,000. Liam and Nathan kept their jobs. The others were let go without prejudice, so they could find jobs without any black marks on their employment records except for Liam. The other 5 were divorced, and I provided their spouses with the evidence I had collected. They all thanked me profusely. I said it was nothing. They wouldn't have done that for me if the situations were reversed. Graham did end up in some trouble with his wife's relatives. He ended up in the hospital about 3 weeks after his divorce was filed, and I hear he is a transgender now. Marcus left for parts unknown. His fiancée had similar designs on his anatomy as to what happened to Graham then. Harry left for other opportunities in the state. I didn't ever hear where, of course. I really didn't care as long as they sent their money to a special bank account that was set up to collect their court-ordered restitution for their actions against my marriage. I never got a penny from Ellis. I guess I never would. Kathy found work in New Orleans. Last I heard. I wished her luck. Yeah, I know I was an idiot, and I didn't go all scorched earth on everyone. However, that is just not me. I'm more of a gentleman, and that is how I was raised. By the way, Jenna and I are expecting our first child in another month or so. She accepted my proposal just after she graduated from college. She did get offered the job as a manager of the Timberwolf, but she turned it down. She wanted to stay home and raise our children. I made enough money to allow for that. Jenna promised me that she would always be faithful to me and never stray. If she kept that job with the Timberwolf, she may have been tempted, so she said she could never lose what she had with me for something fleeting and wrong. I believe I found me a one-man woman, and she found her one-woman man. Thanks to everyone who took the time to listen to today's stories. If you enjoyed it, please consider liking and subscribing if you haven't already. Feel free to share your thoughts on the events in the comments below. Take care.